You're going to practice identifying heat transfer through the next 10 scenarios. Remember, you can only pick conduction, convection, or radiation. Remember, conduction is through direct touch or direct contact, and those have to be through solids. So that would be something like me picking up a metal spoon out of a pot of soup and feeling the heat on my hand. The next one would be convection, where hot air or hot liquid rises and cool air or liquid sinks. Remember, that is the continuous motion of fluid. The less dense things are going to rise and the more dense things are going to sink. Those are between gases and liquids. Then last one is radiation, which can be through solids, liquids, gases, or empty space, and that one is most usually from the sun, and it is no direct contact. So scenario number 1, what method of heat transfer is used to press heat into a pair of pants? So if I'm pressing heat into a pair of pants with an iron, the iron is touching the pair of pants, so they have direct contact. That means scenario number 1 is going to be conduction. Scenario number 2, what method of heat transfer does the sun use to heat the earth? The sun is not touching the earth. It is actually very far away, but I know in the summer when you go outside and you can feel the heat on your face, that is radiation. So it's the transfer of heat through the atmosphere. Scenario number 3, what method of heat transfer is used to heat the beaker using a Bunsen burner? So again, the Bunsen burner and the light are not touching. That is going to be radiation. Okay, it can feel the heat without it touching, kind of like a fire. Scenario number 4, one theory states that Jupiter is a failed star. If Jupiter becomes a star, how would it provide heat to the earth? Well, the sun is a star, so the sun provides heat to the earth through radiation. So Jupiter would also do the thing as a star. It would provide heat through radiation. Scenario number 5, sea breezes are caused by warm air rising over the land during the day and cool ocean air moving in to replace it. Which method of heat transfer causes sea breezes? If you look at the arrows, you can see warm air is rising, cool air is sinking, so it's that continuous circular motion that we call convection. Remember, the warm air is rising because it is less dense, and the cool air is sinking because it is more dense. Scenario number 6, what method of heat transfer increases the temperature of the pan? The pan is directly on the stove, so if they're in direct contact, remember that is always going to be conduction. It is directly heating up that pan. If it was not on the stove top, it would not be heating up. Scenario number 7, what method of heat transfer moves the magma in the asthenosphere? Okay, warm magma is heated from the core and it rises up to the crust, and then that cool magma, it cools off once it has a little bit of time and it sinks back down to the core. So we have warm magma rising and cool magma sinking, which is going to be convection. Remember, warm things are going to rise while cool things are going to sink because of density. Scenario number 8, the ocean temperature varies depending on location. The heat transfer between different areas creates waves. What method of heat transfer causes waves? The heat transfer that causes waves is going to be also convection. The temperature is varying depending on location. That is because the deep part of the ocean is going to be very, very cold, very dense, while the top surface of the ocean is going to be warmer, and then it is going to continuously replace itself. The water is warmer near the equator, and it is cooler near the poles, and that warm equator water is going to rise to the poles, and then the cool water from the poles is going to sink in and replace it at the equator. So again, scenario number 8 would be convection. Scenario number 9, Infrared lamps are visible for medical, commercial, and residential use. What method of heat transfer does infrared lamps use? Infrared lamps use radiation, because if you stand next to one, you would feel the heat on your face. That is not through direct contact, so that is going to be radiation. Scenario number 10. Ocean currents move from the equator to the poles and the poles back to the equator. What method of heat transfer does an ocean current use? I kind of already talked about this one in a previous scenario about the waves. If you look at the arrows, the warm water is rising while the cool air is sinking, replacing the warm air. Remember, warm air rises, cool air sinks is going to be convection. What method of heat transfer warms the sand on the beach? This would work the same with concrete in the summer. If you walk out on concrete in the summer or in the beach in summer, your feet are going to burn. The sun is not touching the sand or the concrete. It is very far away, but it is heated up through radiation. Remember, no direct contact. Scenario number 12. What method of heat transfer makes the kid's feet warm from touching the sand? Okay, the kid is touching the sand, so his hands are in direct contact with the sand, making that heat transfer conduction. Okay, just to review, make sure you know conduction is through direct contact. Convection is from warm objects rising and cool objects sinking, and then radiation is not through direct contact.